Yes. Uh, Good evening, friends. I welcome you all to the another edition of our Inform meeting, a web-based meeting which we have started 3-4 months ago. But it seems to be picking up nicely. We had enthusiastic international youngsters, then some of our teachers joined us, and now we have more recognition from seniors, like Tushar, Lobo, and I hope in next few months it will be a big group and it's going to be very interesting. And I shall make one or two announcements. Like our website has a question answer section. I wish people ask, put up questions so that anybody can answer, and we can make some faculty or some specialist to give an curated answers, and if necessary, that can be brought into the web meeting for further discussion. And also, we are adding a short session of practice tips. How I do it. Like, see, mostly these many of these procedures are not described in full in textbooks or anywhere. People have their own way of doing, and maybe even smaller centers, lesser people might have better ways of doing it. So we try to get from as much people as possible, and it can happen only if you sort of volunteer and put it in the call me or mail me or put it up in the website. There is a section, what you can contribute. So if you put your idea and name, we will come back to you and we'll make you join. And also, there would be some out of the box solutions for common problems and even some uncommon problems. And these experiences would not be available in textbooks or in big platforms. So that can be also shared here. And the moot point is, these things should reach the forum like me or the website so that it can be included in the program. So today we have two areas to cover. One is on fistula mapping, and other is catheter. And we have two prominent persons to discuss: Dr. Tushar and Dr. Lobo. Besides Dr. Hemant, Sampath, and other our usual core members of the forum. Um, Actually, the vascular mapping was supposed to come first because Tushar has some problem joining the meeting. I think we'll go on with the other one. Before that, I'll make a small introduction of our chairpersons. Tushar, as you know, is too well known to most of the audience here, and especially for the seniors, but some of the juniors may not know. Um, he finished his basic training from Mumbai. Then he went on to do further training in England. Then he reached US where he finished his American board. And he should be telling us how he got into interventional nephrology when he starts this session. And he has become a sort of a great ambassador for interventional nephrology, not only in US, especially for India. I remember him well because way back in 2009 when we conducted our southern chapter nephrology meeting at Kanyakumari. That was the first time we ventured to conduct a workshop on interventional nephrology. And I don't know how Sampath and I bumped into Tushar, and he agreed and he helped us with dummies, and he was supposed to join as a speaker, but in the last minute, some typhoon or something in his place, he couldn't reach us. So from since then, he has been very encouraging to us and as interventional nephrology in the whole country as such. And he is a prominent person in ISN in the educational work group. And besides being a good interventional nephrologist, he has a knack for teaching and preparing teaching material. And no wonder he was chosen as chair of the educational work group for ISN. He is an editorial board of various journals, especially the Journal of Vascular Access and Seminars on Dialysis. And he has been a speaker trainer at various forums like NKF, ASDIN. He is a prominent member of ASDIN, the American Society of Interventional Nephrology, ASN, and other forums, including our Inform. And he has been an invited faculty in more than 16 countries. and particularly he's a recipient of Gerald Bethard Award for ASDIN from ASDIN in 2016. Gerald Bethard is supposed to be the father of interventional nephrology in US, and there is an award on his name, and he was the recipient in the year 2016. I think it's a great honor for us to have him amidst us. Hopefully, he should be able to, present to us. Then we have Dr.
Bala,
Valentin
Bala,
Lobo.
Bala, can
Yes.
I add one more thing before you
Yeah,
move?
please, please. Yeah, actually, I was
One,
thinking of asking you to introduce him.
no,
Yeah,
no,
please.
no, no, that's fine. No, he's been awarded Roscoe R. Robinson Award, acknowledging the outstanding achievement in field of education in nephrology by International Society of Nephrology this year.
Right, right, right.
So that's an
Yeah, so
addition. Uh,
yeah, so
I
it is
thought I
not
should
only
mention.
doing work or knowing things, but trying to give it to others and teaching. I think it is a great part of the. I mean, a great person. Uh, and with Hemant, I got the opportunity to be with these people in ASDIN in 2-3 meetings. Um, Okay. So hopefully I would like him and Lobo also to tell us, see the seniors, how they got into interventional nephrology as they, before they start. And Dr. Valentin Lobo, he after finishing his undergraduation from BJ Medical College, Pune University, and MD from KEM Hospital, and DNB Nephrology from Mujibhai Patel Urological Hospital. He is now at Pune KEM Hospital, and he is very much into interventional nephrology, especially the catheter-related problems and cath lab work, central vein stenosis interventions, and I have seen him presenting, unassumably cases of central vein interventions from his center, and he is with us to share the session on the catheters. And we have speakers too. We have Rajarajan, who would be talking to us on vascular mapping, and he is from Trichy Kaveri Hospital, and I have seen him doing the same topic in various other forums. So I thought you'd be the right person, to do this topic today. And he has established the dialysis and the transplant unit in that large hospital, Kaveri Hospital, and he would be talking on vascular mapping. And see, many of us are doing AV fistulas here, and we think uh, uh, working fistula at the end of the surgery is fine, but that is not okay. It should be a functional fistula, and it should be able to be used at the end of a month or two. We fail to keep track of that. We claim in various forums that it is 99% success and all that. But if you look at your data, you'll realize that there is a number of them who don't end up with getting used for dialysis. So that is where this mapping and selecting is important, and he should be talking to us on that. Maybe as a second part when Tushar is able to join us. Then we have our young intervention nephrologist from Chennai Apollo Hospitals, Dr. Venkatesh. Um, he finished his DM nephrology from Chandigarh, and somehow from the beginning he has been into intervention nephrology. He has attended various workshops and fellowship right from Korea, US, and Japan. And maybe he was, I don't know, motivated during his training in Chandigarh. So, but from the beginning, he has been into this, and he is doing great work in Chennai now in Apollo. And he should be talking to us on managing blocked catheters. Dr. Lobo, please, you can start, chairing the session, introducing the topic, and let Venkatesh, Rajarajan, Venkatesh would be presenting first. I had, after Dr. Lobo's introduction, and before Venkatesh talk, we have a minute or two, presentation by three persons, about how they try to declot clotted catheter. From there, Venkatesh will take on. So I think I will share my screen again to get those persons. Yes, Dr. Lobo, you can proceed.
Yeah, thank you. And I think it's a great idea to be having this forum. There used to be days, Dr. Hemant Mehta will remember, when we would be at Apollo Chennai every 3 months with Avtar, and we would have a 1 day workshop in the cath lab, 1 day workshop with ultrasound, and that would sort of be the place where everyone would want to come. And it was not only from India, but also from the rest of Asia, that young nephrologists were coming to try and get involved in interventional nephrology. And the pandemic has put paid to all of that. So today, what we are what you mentioned earlier, it's wonderful to know that increasingly nephrologists are getting involved, that they want to do their own vascular accesses, they want to salvage their own vascular accesses. Because as my former chief, Dr. Rajapurkar, used to say, the best person to do an intervention on a vascular access is the person who has a stake in the outcome. And who better than the nephrologist? We are using a lot of catheters today, and so it's good to know that we're going to hear from some of our colleagues how they go about making catheters which are problematic usable again. So I won't waste time in talking further, but let the three nephrologists who are giving us the tips for practice, how I do it, take over. Over to you, Dr. Subramaniam.
Dr. Subramaniam?
Hello.
Yeah, I have your thing on the slide. Yeah, just start.
I thank the organizers for giving me this opportunity. I am practicing at a remote place in southern Tamil Nadu, where people are, most of my patients are in health insurance schemes, so they cannot afford clotting of a catheter, and that too a perm cath which costs 35,000 rupees is huge money for them. So in such situations, I have to search for any medicine which can help us in declotting the catheter. When I was searching, we all used to think that urokinase, which is available as 250,000 units vial, only can be used for declotting a catheter. But when I approached the company person, they gave me an idea. It is available as 5,000 units vial also, which is available at a very low price, which we didn't know. So I thought we'll buy this product and we'll try to declot the catheter using this 5,000 units vial. What we have to do is just dilute the vial with dilute this 5,000 units vial with 2 ml of water for injection. Just fill the catheter, which is catheter blocked side, with this medicine, and leave it there for 12 hours. Next day, when you try to open it, out of 10 patients, 7 patients had got back their flow. This is what I found in my practice, and it is very useful now. So, so I thought there is no danger of bleeding, because the dose which we use in this situation is very meager. No danger of bleeding also, and when such low doses are used, and it's very easy to use. Also, when we use medicines like sodium citrate for declotting, the chances of dyselectrolytemias are that, which is not seen in this drug when it is used in this small dose. So we thought of sharing it to you in this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Subramaniam. We'll go on to the next Dr. Alex. What do you do and how do you do?
Yes, am I audible?
Yes,
Hello?
yes, you are audible, Alex.
Yeah, good evening. Myself, Dr. Alex, consultant nephrologist from Kidney Care. Yeah, I'll just brief out how do I do from my DM time until my 2 years of practice in Kidney Care Center. How do I do declotting of a blocked tunnel catheter? So first, streptokinase is my first choice because it is cheaper, and 1,800 rupees for one vial. So one vial contains approximately 15 lakh units, and I will dilute that in 6 ml saline so that it makes up to 2.5 lakh units per ml. And according to the volume of the hub, I will inject into both the arterial as well as the venous lumen. And even if there is no flow in any of the lumen, as you try to withdraw the heparin, if it is not coming out completely also, you can try putting in the thrombolytic agent, once you put streptokinase, obviously there will be definitely some increase in flow will be there. So there is no worry of the material going into the catheter, or it will get retained. You will not be able to pull it back. So you can use it even if there is absolutely no flow in the arterial or in the venous lumen. So we are not supposed to repeat streptokinase. Once you're used once in a patient, better not to repeat in another patient. And the dwell time, usually I keep it for 4 to 6 hours. And main thing that you have to take care is that the volume which you are supposed to give into the each hub should be accurate. If it is 1.4 ml, then it should be 1.4 ml only. It should not be exceeding even by 0.1 or 0.2 ml only. Because one patient I had, when there was a leak of around 0.2 or 0.3 ml, accidentally, the patient had severe chest pain and palpitations. So sometimes patient can experience that. And I would recommend to keep this as an inpatient procedure. You can have a short admission of the patient, take a consent, explain everything, and then do. Because very rarely you can have complications also. So better to explain everything before you do this procedure. And if there is a failure with streptokinase, then I go for urokinase. We usually use 50,000 units per vial, with the cost of which is somewhere around 3,800. And I dilute it in 10 ml to make a concentration of 5,000 units per ml. And I usually keep a dwell time of somewhere around 4 to 6 hours. And so far, whatever experience that I had over my 5 years, around I get 80 to 90% success rate. And we usually, whenever there is a flow dysfunction, we do an X-ray. We ensure that the position of the catheter is normal. Then if it is normal, then we go ahead with declotting, and we get a success rate of around 80 to 90%. If we intervene on an early stage, when the flow of the catheter is reducing only, before there is no absolute flow at all from the catheter. If you intervene in an early stage and use the appropriate concentration, the success rate is somewhere between 80 to 90%. And the secondary failure usually occurs after 2 to 3 months only, once you do the thrombolysis with adequate concentration. And after do the thrombolysis, maintenance, we give heparin undiluted for 1 or 2 sessions, and then you do with 2,000 units, 2,500 units heparin per ml concentration. We usually use that as a lock once you do the thrombolysis. Keeping higher concentration of heparin helps to keep the patency for longer time after you do the thrombolysis.
Thank you, Alex.
Thank you, sir. Okay.
Yeah. Now Dr. Sendil from Meenakshi Mission Hospital. Sendil?
Yes, sir. Good evening, everyone. I'm Dr. Senthil Kumar, final year nephrology PG at Meenakshi Mission Hospital. So this is what we have been doing at our hospital, what I have observed over the past 3 years. So for both cuffed and uncuffed catheters, we usually start with heparin. So despite being an anticoagulant and not a thrombolytic, I found that it does work in almost 50 to 60% of the cases. So we usually give the concentrated heparin, which is 5,000 units per ml. We'll just inject it into each lumen, depending upon the caliber of the catheter. And we usually followed up with aspiration after half an hour to 1 hour. And we found that almost around 50 to 60% of the patients do well with this. The flow is reestablished. In cases where the heparin is not able to do the trick, only for the cuffed catheters, in those cuffed catheters, we'll go with urokinase then. So cuffed catheters, urokinase is available as a 5,000 and 5 lakh vial in our hospital. So initially we used to go with 5,000 units in each lumen, but the success was rather limited with that. So nowadays we are giving 10,000 units in each lumen, followed by aspiration after about 4 hours. And if it is not working with 10,000 units, then we move on to 50,000 units in each lumen. And we have had a success rate of around 60 to 70% in these cases. But the one caveat that we have found in these cases is that even with the once the flow is reestablished after urokinase lock, many of these patients, we have found that after 2 or 3 dialysis, they do develop recurrent clotting. So that is one thing that we have found in these patients. So these are the 2 things that we have been doing here. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Sendil.